the Bergeron aims are partly to invigorate, for the Bergeron Fellow to invigorate. So hopefully just somebody coming in who's a specialist in a certain area invigorates or gives a fresh angle to have a reaction against. And hopefully what I'm saying is not a definitive word, but I'm bringing an attitude, a set of values that might antagonise the teachers, make them think in a positive or negative way, and hopefully get taken on a journey. And hopefully the same happens for the students. And in terms of showing their poetry, for example, seeing the students' work today, hopefully they feel that somebody from outside is coming in, and it's not just their teachers saying their work's good because they feel they should, but somebody coming in from outside is saying it's good. And I was talking to a student today, and I was saying, I've worked with undergraduates at university, and the poem the student showed me was on an equal footing with the best of those students, which had surprised me, the standard of that work. But also it's good for a student to hear that actually, that they really are writing well. So hopefully I can shed light on some of their work with my particular angle, my confidence, my kind of sense of authority as a poet practitioner. What works, what isn't working.
Having the opportunity to obviously work with a professional and then also develop skills that are unique to the class. I haven't been in an English class where we've done poetry, this contemporary form of poetry at least, and I think getting the opportunity to expand our word choice and modernize what we're reading has been a very interesting experience.
It was really great to meet an author or meet a professional in the field whose experiences I could relate to. There are not a lot of South Asian second generation Indian immigrant writers out there, and even if there are, they don't often talk about those experiences or those their lives in that regard. So it was really quite nice to see that shift and to have an author I could talk to about stuff that I was familiar with, stuff that I had gone through in my own personal life.
I mean, one of my frustrations is that with the curriculum, with any school curriculum, children are being taught to prioritise analytical approaches to learning, and they go from one subject to another to another to another, and they're doing kind of analysis all the time. So for me, it's really important to get children thinking about just being imaginative, being free in that sense, and not feeling bound to only analyse, and not thinking that the key effort in society is all about analysis, and that imagination is equal to analysis, that everything is part of a greater whole.
Having previously studied and read his work, it was really interesting and cool to have him come in and get to meet him and get to know his personality and see how his personality relates to the diction and the syntax he uses within his own writing, and see how that kind of relates. And that's helpful to me to kind of find my own voice within my writing by using who I am as a person and my personality and expressing that to form my own sort of writing style.
Oftentimes when I write, it won't be with that angle, but seeing Mr. Nagra and seeing his work and the way he blends both Indian mythology and Indian culture into his writing, I think it's definitely inspired me to do the same.
And one way to do that is, if they're doing creative writing, if they're analysing their own practice and trying to get to the next stage, they're actually doing a whole range of interdisciplinary skills in the one hit, because also you're trying to get them to go away and research background reading to write that text. And I've seen students, having to go and research on knowledge to do with maths or geography or history as a way of having a better understanding of their text. They started writing about a certain event, and then to really appreciate it, you need to do some reading. So the reading becomes a motive to improve your creative writing, and then we read better. And also the act of writing and analysing your own work makes you a better practitioner of other people reading in general. You don't read a text as a dead text, and you don't think, oh, there's alliteration here, or there's a simile here. You think of it as something in process. This is just, this is the final version. But what if there was another version? And the writer probably would have gone on to do another version if they had another year of time to do it. Or if they went back to it 5 years later, they'd probably change things again. So it hopefully opens students to think that nothing is set in stone.
A risk taker, when he uses his language, he uses words that most people would look at and say it was sort of like a Mad Libs, where you just take kind of an adjective and form it, change the definition of it through your sentence, and you kind of create your own writing, your own unique writing style through that. And I thought that was really interesting, and it teaches you how to take risks within your writing, especially something as free-willed as poetry.
I think creative writing is essential for all young minds to broaden our imaginative capacity. I only have to think of this, the paperclip experiment where children under 5 find over 50 different ways to use a paperclip or whatever it is, and by the time children are teenagers, they can only think of about 3 or 4 ways to use a paperclip. And it's all about the way schools, institutions generally, are shutting down the imagination. So creative writing is really at heart just telling children that freedom of imagination is essential and linked to every part of the curriculum. That if you can be creative in your thinking, you can be creative in thinking of problems and creative in finding solutions. And I think the most fun and playful way of thinking of problem and solution is probably through creative writing, because in some way that's linked to our own selves and understanding our own selves. So hopefully it should be kind of a foundational part of each person.
He looked up, a tall, fit beach babe running across the collision of the ocean and sand discoed into his field of vision. It couldn't be, he thought.
She was singing sweet, silky songs with a beach ball under her arm. Her hair billowed in the sunshine. She turned her head and met eyes with Sean, who suddenly sat up. She paused and strutted her stuff towards him. "Hey," he said, welcoming her attention.
"Howdy, cowboy. You come here often?" she asked.
Curiously, he replied. Sean played it cool, but in the inside he was just shaking like a Polaroid picture.
"I'm Cherry Blossom."
"I'm Sean," he smiled. That night they scooped and boogled.
And the rest is history.
And I'm just coming in as a poet, so hopefully, I just have a slightly looser or a very different type of language as an approach, which isn't curriculum-led or modular-led in any way. So hopefully that can be quite liberating.